Hello, it's Rich Rosen, founder and CEO of Fastcall, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes about our feature that we call Listen In, where you can listen to an active call. So I am here and I'm logged into this this browser as a user, and we're starting to initiate the call. And I'm going to answer that. Okay, so this user has an active call connected, and I'm actually going to switch browser. So now I'm logged into Salesforce as a manager. So I actually made this call as the user that we call developer production, and you'll see that in the user panel here under admin settings, we now have an option to listen in. So I'm going to click on that. Um, and you'll see that we're populating some call details that I'm going to put that call on mute, drop some of the feedback. You're going to see that we're populating some of the call details here. So this was the caller ID that was used by the user, the number that they dialed, the record. So to listen in, I'm going to come in here, and there's a few different ways to do this, but I'm going to show you. We started at the user panel. I'm going to select a phone that I'm going to use to join the call, and these are the phones or devices that I have in the org. Um, as the as my user. So I can call this as a mobile phone, could be my office phone. Right now we don't support a uh, listening in on an active call with a soft phone, so it does have to be um, a hard phone. So I pick that listen in phone. I can start to join that call. Um, let's see here. I've used up I've used up most of the phones that I have available for the demo, but let's see here. That's and then I can pick that phone. That's a mobile. It's actually the mobile that I'm using right now. But I'll start that call, and you can see that it's going to, and it says you now are able to join this call on mute. So I am generating another call out to another phone, and then I'm joining that call. Essentially, we've set up a conference call, and now I'm joining that call as a third party in the conference call, and I can listen. But I am on mute. I can stop listening. And if I did want to, I can actually start that again. So I'm going to close this. So that is, you'll see here, and that I've kept the call active in the other browser. So this user is still active on the other browser. So that's where we see listen in the user panel. Now, another way that we can join a call for listen in is in the fast call dashboard, which I have here. So you see here our dashboard, and this happens to be in Lightning. So our dashboard, which is not a setting in our app, but is a tab. In the case of Lightning, it's an app. So here is the Fast Call Lightning app, and the dashboard in my particular org. We actually have it down here. I could just move it up here, but that's all set up in Salesforce. But dashboard is actually an app that is added either in Classic or Lightning. Um, and it's not, just to sort of show you again, the user panel is under our settings inside of the app. So in dashboard is actually different, and I can show you what the dashboard looks like in Classic in a second. So here is the dashboard where I have these calls. Some advantages of doing this in Lightning, but I have the call. So here's the call in progress. I can click on the call. The call detail is here. I can actually, in Lightning, I can actually terminate the call if I wanted to. So if I was a manager and I needed, for any reason, I needed to terminate the call, I can do that. This is the listen in option. So now with the listen in option, you also see that here, when we do it from dashboard, which is the newer way that we've enabled listen in, we can decide whether we want to be on mute or not. So before, when I'm doing it from the user panel, I can only be on mute. Here, I can decide if I want to be on mute or not, and then I pick my phones. same as before. And I dial and I start and stop that listen in, and I do that here. So this is how the manager is able to listen in on the call. The end user does nothing. The end user just dialed. But let me show you some of those settings, and I'll come back over here. Matter of fact, I'm going to come back into Classic again. I mentioned, so dashboard is here. So dashboard is an app or that's set up in your tab as opposed to an option in settings. So I pop over here. I'm going to go back into settings. You'll see that was the dashboard. And all along, we'll see that that call is still active in the dashboard. So I'm going to come down here and look at the settings. They're here, call transfer, listen in. We do group the settings for call transfer and listen in together because they have some commonality between them, but for purposes of the video, I'm going to do two different videos. The first thing we do is we're going to enable the settings, and these settings have just recently been updated. So if you are used to the features in an earlier version, these have changed somewhat. But the first thing we're doing is we're enabling the three-way call, and that is the commonality between call transfer and listen in. They both use a three-way call because there are three parties on the call. With listen in, there are always three parties because that's what you're doing. Call transfer, when you're doing a warm transfer, you're introducing the party. There are three parties on the call until you release the call. Then there's two again. But for both, we're enabling this three-party call. Now, one of the things that's new, am I enabling this for all, which is going to enable this for all of your users, which is how we've always had this feature, but we've now enabled you to specifically set a user for listen in or a group. So, and one of the reasons why you might want to do that is you only want to listen. You're only going to listen into one person at a time. So you're going to set up that user so that all the other users have your standard two-legged call, your standard call, and the party that you're going to be observing will use that three-way call. And you can select that one by one or group. So maybe you wanted to set users in a group. And the group functionality here is the same as our other uses of group, such as inbound call distribution or call recordings or even SMS templates. Great. So that's the first thing you're doing is you're enabling it, and you're saying who you're going to enable this for. I'll just leave that at all. Why not? In a three-way call, we have, because this is a conference call and it's not a two-leg call, it's a three-way conference call. You have a choice for audio because it is a conference call, and Twilio sets this up a little bit differently. This setting has been in our application for a while, but you basically have two choices: silence and music. We don't recommend silence for an inbound call because that's kind of awkward when you call in and there's silence. We do like music, and music works well on an outbound call. When the user is dialing, they're going to hear music instead of, and here you pick your music, so this says rock. When they're making their outbound call, they're actually going to hear the music rather than ringing, which is if you have to listen to something, I like music. Why not? It sounds nicer than the ringing. For inbound, there are some benefits of ringing, the benefits of music over ringing, and there are some studies that do say that callers will hold longer when listening to music than ringing. But you're picking the music. That's one of the reasons why we have enabled the three-way call for individual users or groups, because if you want to sort of limit who is hearing this music during that three-way call, you're doing that here. So you have your enabling a three-way call, you've got your audio settings, and then here you actually have to still specifically sort of say what you want to be turned on. So I can enable my three-way call up here. It reveals my settings, but I still have to set this. It's important. Do I want to enable the outbound listen in only, so there's not going to be any listen in for inbound? So in that case, the music is only going to happen for the outbound calls, and you're only listen for the outbound calls, or for inbound. Same thing with call transfer. Once you've set the call for a three-way call, it doesn't really matter because if this way, all of your outbound calls are going to be three-way calls, whether or not you've enabled call transfer. Won't matter for the three-way call here. It will matter that the user won't be able to transfer the call if you don't want them to. But as far as the music and the three-way call is concerned, once you've set one, they're essentially set um, for every call that's made that way. Okay, so these are the admin settings. We talked a little bit about the user panel, which quite honestly was sort of the older way that we did this. And the dashboard, which is our newest way of enabling listen in. And the dashboard has a couple of advantages. Matter of fact, I'll show you one. I'm going to end this call. One of the things that one advantage of dashboard is it's real time. So that call is now completed. And if I look here, I'm going to see the details of that call. Went all of 621 seconds. And then there's the details of that call. And in the dashboard, you can now call that contact again. You can actually send an SMS if you wanted to go directly and look at the Salesforce task. You could do that here, and this is a delete if you did actually want to delete the record. Great. So a little longer than I hoped for the overview. But if you do have any additional questions, support@fastcall.com, and we hope you have a chance to check out this feature.